My name is Clara Jensen. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a medical office manager. I stood there, rooted to the spot in the kitchen, staring at the small, white granules scattered across the pristine quartz countertop. Mixed in with them were shards of bright orange plastic, fragments of what used to be my life-saving medication. My mother, Evelyn, stood opposite me, a half-empty glass of water in her hand, her expression a careful blend of concern and righteous indignation. "It was expired, Clara," she said, her voice a little too calm, a little too saccharine. "I was just protecting you. You know I only want what's best." The words hit me like a physical blow, but the sight of the ruined pills, the ones I needed daily for my autoimmune condition, was worse. My hands, usually steady as I navigated complex insurance claims at work, trembled. This wasn't the first time my mother had overstepped, but this was a different kind of boundary. This was a line she had not just crossed, but obliterated with a single, deliberate gesture. I felt a cold knot of fear in my stomach, not just for my health, but for the realization of what this act truly meant. What she didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that this act of calculated sabotage would be the very thing that finally broke her hold on me, leading to a conversation with someone who understood exactly what protecting you really meant. To understand why I stood frozen, unable to scream or even cry, you need to know about Evelyn. My mother wasn't a monster in the traditional sense. She was a woman who believed she knew best, always. Growing up, it manifested as choosing my clothes, dictating my friends, or helping with my homework until it became her project. I was diagnosed with severe Crohn's disease at 28, after years of unexplained fatigue, joint pain, and digestive issues. It was a relief to finally have a name for what was happening to my body, but it also meant a lifetime of managing a chronic illness, including regular infusions and daily oral medication. My mother's reaction to my diagnosis was a mix of performative sympathy and outright denial. She'd bring me organic bone broth one day, then insist I try a cleanse she read about online the next, dismissing my doctor's carefully constructed treatment plan. "You just need to eat right, Clara," she'd say, waving a hand dismissively at my prescription bottles. "All those chemicals can't be good for you." I moved back home temporarily 6 months ago after a particularly brutal flare-up left me too weak to manage my apartment and work full-time. It was supposed to be a temporary haven, a place to recover. Instead, it became a gilded cage. The orange pill bottle, specifically, became a symbol of her escalating interference. It contained my daily immunosuppressant, a crucial medication that kept my immune system from attacking my own gut. I kept it in a small, locked box in my nightstand, a habit I developed after a previous incident where she tidied my room and accidentally put my medication bottles in a drawer with old vitamins, claiming she thought they were expired. I'd found them weeks later, after a noticeable worsening of my symptoms. I'd learned then that I couldn't trust her with my health, but I hadn't anticipated this level of direct sabotage. Her interference had been subtle at first, a slow creep. One morning, I'd find my carefully prepared, doctor-approved breakfast replaced with a smoothie she'd made, packed with ingredients I knew triggered my symptoms. "Just try it, honey," she'd coo. "It's so much healthier." I'd politely decline, only to find that healthier option appearing again and again, sometimes with a passive-aggressive comment about how I was wasting food. Then, about 3 months ago, I received a call from my gastroenterologist's office, informing me my semi-annual checkup had been rescheduled. When I asked why, the receptionist mentioned that, "Your mother called and said you had a conflicting appointment." My mother knew how important those checkups were. When I confronted her, she simply shrugged, "Oh, I must have gotten the dates mixed up. You know how busy I am." The lie was as transparent as her concern. 2 months ago, she started leaving articles on my bed, printouts from obscure health blogs, touting miracle cures for autoimmune diseases, often accompanied by underlined passages questioning the efficacy of conventional medicine. "Have you read this, Clara?" she'd ask, her eyes glinting with an evangelical fervor. "It makes so much sense. Maybe you should try a natural approach." I'd patiently explain that I was under the care of specialists, that I trusted my doctors, but her persistence only grew. The underlying message was clear: I was doing it wrong, and she knew the right way. The final straw before the medication incident happened a month ago. I was working from my room, a rare moment of peace, when I overheard her on the phone with my Aunt Carol. See, Lara's just so dependent on those pills, she was saying, her voice laced with a performative sigh. She just doesn't try to get better. If she just put her mind to it, I know she could heal herself. The words were like tiny daggers, twisting in a wound I thought had healed. I wasn't dependent, I was managing a chronic illness. Her dismissal of my struggle, her public portrayal of me as weak or unwilling, crystallized something in my mind. This wasn't about love or care. It was about control, about her narrative, about her inability to accept a reality that didn't fit her perfect daughter image. I knew then that I had to get out, but my health had taken a toll on my savings. I started quietly looking for apartments, checking my budget, and talking to a few trusted colleagues at work. As a medical office manager, I was well versed in patient rights and the resources available to individuals struggling with healthcare access or difficult family situations. I'd even considered calling a patient advocate for myself, but the thought of escalating the family drama always held me back. I still hoped I could manage her, set boundaries, make her understand. That hope died on the kitchen counter, amidst the white granules and orange plastic. After a long moment of stunned silence, I found my voice. "Mother," I said, my voice dangerously low. "What have you done?" She put the glass down with a delicate clink. "I told you, darling. It was expired. And honestly, I don't think it was doing you any good anyway. You've been so tired. I think you need a fresh start, a clean slate." She gestured vaguely at the scattered pills as if they were old dust bunnies. "That medication keeps me out of the hospital." I finally yelled, the restraint snapping. "It's not expired. It's vital." Her face hardened. "Don't you raise your voice at me, Clara. I am your mother. I know what's best for you. I'm trying to help you break free from those pharmaceutical companies." My mind raced. I knew the exact lot number and expiration date of that bottle. I just picked up the refill last week. There was no way it was expired. This was deliberate. This was an act of medical abuse, plain and simple. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. Panic wouldn't help me. "Okay," I said, my voice now eerily calm. "Okay, Mother. You've made your point." I pulled out my phone, her eyes following my movements. "I need to call my doctor." "Why?" she asked, a flicker of unease in her eyes. "I'm sure they'll just tell you to get more of those awful pills. I can make you some herbal tea." "Because you just destroyed my prescription medication," I said, looking her directly in the eye. "And that's a serious problem." I walked out of the kitchen, leaving her standing amidst the wreckage. My first call was to my gastroenterologist's office. I explained the situation to the nurse, trying to keep my voice steady. She was shocked but helpful, promising to send an emergency refill request to the pharmacy immediately. The next call was harder, but I knew it was necessary. I dialed the number for the patient advocacy services I had memorized from my work. I outlined the situation, the history of interference, and the final, devastating act. The woman on the other end, whose name was Sarah, listened patiently, her voice calm and professional. She told me she would review my case and call me back within the hour. The phone rang exactly 45 minutes later. It was Sarah from Patient Advocacy. "Ms. Jensen," she began, "I've reviewed your situation, and this is a clear case of medical interference and elder abuse, even though you're an adult. Your mother's actions are serious. We can help you secure an emergency supply of your medication, which I understand your doctor is already working on. More importantly, we can connect you with resources for safe housing, legal advice, and even assist with reporting this incident to Adult Protective Services if you choose. You have a right to manage your own health without interference." Her words were a lifeline. I felt a surge of relief, followed by a wave of cold determination. "I want to pursue all options," I told her. "I need to get out of here, and I need my mother to understand the gravity of what she's done." Sarah outlined a plan. she would contact the pharmacy directly to expedite the refill, connect me with a social worker who specialized in family conflict and housing for vulnerable adults, and provide me with a list of legal aid services. She also suggested I document everything, which I had already started doing, mentally, but now I began a physical log. That evening, after I had secured an emergency refill from a different pharmacy, I sat my mother down. "Mother," I said, holding the new orange pill bottle in my hand, "I spoke with my doctor, and I spoke with a patient advocate today. What you did was not helping me. It was dangerous, and it was illegal." Her face crumpled. "Illegal? Don't be ridiculous. Clara. I was just trying to help you detox. Destroying my medication could have put me in the hospital, or worse," I continued, ignoring her. "And because of this, I'm moving out. The patient advocate is helping me find temporary housing, and I'll be securing a new apartment as soon as possible." She gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock and betrayal. "You're leaving? Because of this? After everything I've done for you?" "Yes, Mother," I said, my voice firm. "Because of this. You crossed a line that cannot be uncrossed. My health is not a debate, and my medication is not yours to destroy." The next few days were a blur of activity. Sarah connected me with a compassionate social worker named Brenda, who helped me find an emergency room in a shared house nearby that I could afford for a month while I searched for a long-term solution. I packed my essentials, my mother alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. She never apologized for destroying the medication, only for upsetting me. The final confrontation was quiet, almost anticlimactic. I put my last box in the car, my new orange pill bottle tucked safely in my purse. My mother stood on the porch, her arms crossed, a picture of wounded pride. "You'll regret this, Clara," she called out, her voice brittle. "You'll see how hard it is without me." I didn't answer. I just got in my car and drove away. The patient advocate followed up with me a week later, checking on my housing and medication. She even sent me information on how to set up a medical power of attorney, just in case. I haven't spoken to my mother since I left. The silence has been deafening at times, but also incredibly peaceful. I'm still living in the temporary room, but I've found a small apartment that I'll move into next month. Tonight, I stood in the kitchen of my temporary room, carefully twisting open the child-proof cap of my new orange pill bottle. My hands were steady. I took my medication, a simple, life-sustaining act I could now perform without fear or interference. This bottle, once a symbol of my mother's control, now represented my quiet, hard-won freedom.